Hello, I'm not a native speaker. I'm from Switzerland, Swiss German. I'm also bad in German, but I try to make an answer video. Uh, Focus on sexual integrity, promiscuous, or the opposite is maybe just some sort of limbic system vulnerability hack. You have neocortex and you have the limbic system. The limbic system is, as far as I know, this part of the brain with, where the drive resides in, and neocortex is the part where the thinking process logic is in. So in my case, they upvoted the limbic system, the drive, as soon as I found out that some 43 billion company did strange things in the place where I worked, footprinting, enumeration, hacking, black hats. So they first hunted me down with a chemical agent, chemical weapon, so-called illegal drugs, and then they installed trauma-based mind control and always trigger me with sexual things, with the one and only relation I had, that teddy bear. That's all that's left, and autistic helmet, because since then I regularly try to commit suicide because what happened. So I think going against the sexual integrity of a person, no matter if girl or boy, is some sort of trauma-based mind control. Simple example: if you are beaten with a red baseball stick, where is it? Okay, red baseball stick. You get hit with such a thing, then with a red pool stick, and then with a red toaster, then with a red hammer. Of course, it are the Russians. It are possibly not the Russians. So this trauma would then be generalized to the color red, and so that's, in my opinion, trauma-based mind control. And if you do this in context of sexual integrity, you would then switch to your limbic system instead of finishing the puzzle. Autistic people like solving puzzles, and they dislike lying, they dislike non-solved puzzles. They diagnosed schizophrenia, but I think it's autism. They knew that it would be autism, so they can we throw nose? They try to influence what I say with things that I do with my head. So to generalize such stimuli, you would need really state-of-the-art surveillance infrastructure, and thanks to Snowden and for example Jacob Appelbaum, who made the technical presentation, we know, okay, or maybe not the Russians, maybe not, maybe also not the Chinese, and also not Ost Timor. By the way, sexual integrity, uh, maybe it affects boys also. Oops, that's this one. And you refer her video and she trauma-based mind control, I think they want to make her aggressive, make her look aggressive. They maybe go against her sexual integrity with weapons that remotely can access. For example, there are things like active denial system, which is some sort of military weapon to roast the upper 0.5 millimeters of your skin. They say it's against demonstrating peoples, but just imagine if you would link that with wireless, with the computer, and always if the color red would be shown on the screen, you would enable it. You could use it then to program a person. Like the Pavlov. Oops. Like the Pavlov dog, but it would not be a bell that rings, it would be an active denial system that roasts your upper 0.5 millimeters of your skin. So things take place, unfortunately. I try to note down all the attacks they do against me. And it's not a game, that's me, 2005. They tried to drive me commit suicide. Maybe this 43 billion insurance company that I see that they go against other Swiss companies, and I do this thing, of course, willingly. I do not. They drive me to hurt myself. So maybe they also could induce rage. For example, there is a video. They had a camera there, and they recorded how they drive this guy run amok against his computer. So for some people this seems to be a funny game. For me it's not. More or less it are learning cards, often the abstract from scientific papers, technology cards. So maybe there are printing templates. I before, but I think you can print it on leather too. Then you could print them, you could cut them out, play with them. It's the principle of morphological box. Morphological box, is it called, I think. So you have several, for example, several communications channels and several psychological moves, and then you can use this card to find out what they try to do. So completely free, especially for equal-aged and younger people. Oops, I like music. By the way, music from me. I like making music that helps me a bit for my soul. I had 13 years piano lessons, but that's off topic. Here, I think. I clicked on it. Not comfortable with being in a relationship. Oops. Trauma-based mind control generalized. What they do in my situations is also trauma-based mind control. First they went against me with old people, old powerful people like chiefs and so old. So I had a trauma from older people, then they generalized it to equal-aged, and then they generalized it to all people. So I hide more or less most of the time in my apartment. So, and in my case, they do this because I know too much about Satan's network and Satan's technology. Out of body experience, I think I would say sort of Turing complete avatar. So still a speculation, I cannot prove it yet, but with quite good software algorithms technology, you could generate an avatar of people you know, an avatar of yourself, and what they do, I have voices in my head that's possibly they can do this possibly since 1950s with this Stimmosiever, which had two electrodes at the forgotten area of brain chips. So these things happened. I think they did research in Switzerland on Verdingskinder, and in 2010 they were as small as that. So this research goes on, and that's then one of many communications channel, because you don't need to have an implant. You could do this with speakers in the concrete. It's, if you know a programming language like Java, you could write the interface for the content, the interface for the communications channel, and so on and so on and so on. That's a really big software. Snowden leak said they have about 100,000 developers, so I don't feel bad because I lose. Normally no one would have a chance against 100,000 developers from, for example, NSA. And such things, that's loop recorder. It was called Dormy Phone, Dorm iPhone, which is strange. You could activate these voices. It was an endless loop. So that's possible since 70 years. And always when things are possible, there are some less nice people that abuse such technology. And for example, for positional data, you can use normal Wi-Fi signal from your home router or from your handy to track you. And for example, always when you go to the bath, they could, for example, say red baseball stick, and then you would get traumatized. So that's, first you would need technology for surveillance, then you would need a psychological concept like classical conditioning. That's also in Wikipedia, I think. Wikipedia. So that's and yeah, I must be honest, I'm some sort of a lab rat, I guess. So then let's go on. and you repeat the thing with becoming promiscuous or the opposite. In my case, it's not about sexual things. It's about truth, love, being honest. I spent my first 20 years of my life as only member of my family in the Keller, so it would be completely normal that if some girl is my partner, I would then stick to her. So that's not about sex, but limbic system um, is since early animals primarily had to find food. It's ranked higher, I think, in the hierarchy of the brain. Fight or flight response. That's the amygdala. So if you would have an implant that could trigger this, or if you were conditioned, you can, for example, a 16 kilohertz sound would then activate your fight or flight behavior. So if they would like to censor you or prevent you from talking about things you found out maybe at your company, they would enable that as soon as you meet someone that should not know what's going on in this company, for example. And they even brought me to court because I shall be an Al Qaeda rapist terrorist. I'm not. I don't even know if Al Qaeda are all good or all bad. I'm Christian, and I learned in Switzerland we as Christians could maybe even learn from Muslims because they take it more serious with moral and integrity. At least in Switzerland, I cannot say it for the whole world. But the funny thing is, they brought me to court, said Mark Landau Jr. is a rapist, Al Qaeda terrorist, whatever. It's also some sort of victim bashing. And the funny thing is, I found that on the internet in the earlier days of the internet, and this content was deleted when they went after all my hard disks. The good thing is they forgot one thing, and I know a bit about computer science, and you can make difference, find out what's different on hard disks. So when they delete things and forget one disk, it's easy to find out, okay, this file is only on this disk, nowhere else. So they even marked what's relevant. Sorry, I should not laugh in recording. I hate hearing me laughing. And isolating oneself, if the younger generation would be forced to stay alone, like me in my apartment that hides from other people, it would be beneficiary for the older generations that are linked together and would declare all the younger generations to some sort of unwillingly slaves.
By far, the one that is most cloaked in secrecy.
It's a 6502.
why they act, how they act. For my case, I take it serious with moral. I'm some sort of an altruist, I think. I try to be altruist, and if someone would try to help me that is not altruistic, he or she would make it worse. And often I've recognized that people said they want help and they maybe really wanted to help, but then they found out, okay, Mark studies since 20 years computer science, he has really big problems. We don't want to know what he knows, and then is some sort of switching point where they realize, okay, they cannot help, and maybe they first said, we now help him. I'm a good person. I would like to help Mark, and then they realize it's not that simple, or and then they switch to he's schizophrenic. He annoys, so that they don't have to confess that they could not help. I think it's hard for people to confess that they cannot help, even if, especially if they said first, I will help, I will help. Not even shrinks can. Shrinks are the worst, those with the biggest insanity, in my opinion. And uh, I'm not sure, but my opinion, priority, uh, help her with signal and communications intelligence.